What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview, the #1 podcast in the industry for real estate agents to learn how to get shit done. Make sure to check us out at www.gsdmode.com to check out other GSD Mode podcast interviews and other additional free content, free webinar trainings, and more epic content that I'm always putting out there to help real estate agents like you crush your real estate goals. Just a few quick plugs before we begin. If you are a driven real estate agent that has big goals, big dreams, and want to create greatness, then check out my personal mentorship coaching program at www.90daymastery.com, where you can see how it works, what you can expect, see a ton of testimonials about the massive success other realtors just like yourself have experienced with the program, and learn why thousands and thousands of real estate agents have decided to join my personal coaching program to help them change their business and life forever. All right, so as real estate agents, hands down, by far, the #1 most important tool in our real estate business is our CRM. If you want to use the exact same website and CRM I use that provides you with all my personal follow-up drips that allows my team to generate thousands of leads each and every month and close 2+ homes every single day, check us out at www.perfectstormnow.com to see the best, most effective, and affordable website CRM system on the planet. If you are going to sign up, make sure to go to perfectstormgsd.com. You want to make sure that you go there and register, perfectstormgsd.com, where you can get the registration fee waived and only pay $199 a month. One last quick thing, your support truly means a lot. If you find these interviews and any other GSD Mode content powerful, please make sure to share it with anyone that you feel can benefit from this content. All right, it is time to jump on into today's GSD Mode podcast interview. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview, where every single week we interview top real estate agents, top entrepreneurs, and strip top badasses that are out there dominating their space. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, for their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And that's why they take time out of their busy days to come on here with us and share all their brilliance with us, so then we can go out there and grow and expand and kick ass in our own businesses. So you guys, today, we obviously, those of you that are watching this and not listening to this, we're in the studio, which we don't do a lot of these anymore. This is pretty dope. I always get excited. What do we do, like one every 6 months anymore?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, we used to do them all the time, man, and it was like the energy is just different, right? But I get it's tough, right? And then people can't, I'm not Joe Rogan, so people aren't willing to jump on a plane to come on a podcast. So, but once in a while we get blessed with a guest like you guys that have wanted to do that and come in.
Yeah.
So, but we're in the studio here. And I'm joined with a couple badasses, you guys. These are a couple guys that I've had the pleasure and the honor of being able to, I guess, witness from afar all the growth and success that they've had. Just some young hustlers. I mean, Andrew, you're got in the real estate business 20, and you're 23 today.
Yep.
Right. So I got into real estate at 23. So like you're. Boom, like starting where I got started, right? And man, you're just killing it. You're crushing it. So they are the co-owners, our guests today, you guys are the co-owners of the Coca Group, which is a real estate team in Denver. And again, man, I think, I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was about a year or so ago that you were in the office.
Year and a half, probably.
Year and a half ago. And that was you're flying solo at that time, right?
Flying solo, no agents actually. So we had 0 agents. It was just me with the logo, coming here to learn from you, and then time just flew.
Yeah,
here
so
we are.
In 18 months, solo single agent, which is where we all start, right? Now they have, a pretty badass, amazing team that's doing some epic things that we're going to talk about today. But they have 10 agents on their team and growing massively. We were just talking before we hit the record button of, in the next few months, anticipating to be at 25 agents with the recruiting strategies, everything they have going on, and they're just growing and scaling massively. So I'm really stoked and honored and excited for this interview and to have my good friends Andrew Coca and Jonathan Martinez of the show. Good show, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, that's dope, dude. So, All right, so before we jump into what you guys are doing today, because you're doing a lot of cool things, man, right? You guys are doing what real estate agents need to be doing today, right? And what I mean by this is, no longer is it good enough to just be a great real estate agent. Like, that's the ante to be in the game. I'm like, dude, like, if you're not gonna be a great agent and take care of your clients and like know the contracts and be able to service your clients, which I believe is just the ante. I'm like, just get out of the business, go mall full t-shirts at Pacific somewhere, like, get the fuck out of here, right? But that a lot of agents got away with that for a lot of years. Not treating this as a business, right? But the agents that understood that was the ante, but also treat it as a business, right? Those were the mega producers that always kicked ass. But now look at it today, and as the industry's evolving, that's no longer enough. That's like that's the ante now. That's the new ante. Yep. What used to make you a mega producer is just the ante to maybe, just to do okay and survive in the business. It's like, in addition to that, man, you really got to master technology. You got to master technology, systems, processes, automation, and just be methodical of different revenue sources and think outside the box, right? And you've got to really evolve, which you guys are just freaking crushing it at, right? Which is really impressive. So, which we'll get into all that here shortly. Before we do that, though, why don't you give this guys a little background of, like, how did you each get involved in real estate? Because I know you guys both came from different spaces. So give us a little background on what led you into real estate each, but then also I'm really interested in how you guys met, like how that connection happen.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll start. I got in first on our team, and I was in college. I remember the day, actually. I was in my business law class. I went to school in Massachusetts. I was in a business law class in my second year, and everyone's talking about what they're going to do for the summer. And out of nowhere, some girl's like, oh, I might get my real estate license. And I was like, huh, that could be a good idea. So I went home, got my real estate license, and I went to a seminar by, I think, Gary Keller, and then that was it. I didn't have any family. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anyone in real estate. Didn't really know what the heck I was doing. But it just felt right when she said it in that class. It stuck in my head. I went home that summer, got my license, and kind of just fumbled around. Didn't really know what the heck I was doing. And then I think my first year went okay. My first full calendar year, I sold 10 homes at, I think, 21. And then after that, things were a bit rocky, up and down. We had a few good quarters, a few bad ones, and I just couldn't really do it by myself. And so this is where our partners come in. We have another partner that's actually not here with us too, but meeting these guys, our skills just complemented each other so well. And whereas I was maybe having the long-term vision and I had all the things structured out how I wanted them, there just wasn't enough gusto in the team until, I want to say, John and Dylan came in. And then actually Jonathan and I met one day. I met his little brother. You can take it off from here.
Yeah, so I think just kind of like piggybacking off that. So we actually met at like he's like a little brother of mine. But anyways, this guy met him at a bar, and they met up, and like the next weekend, my little brother was like, yo, like, come meet this guy, he's really cool. And at the time I was like I said, I was in corporate tax, and then at the same time I was like heavily involved with a lot of companies in New York City in the startup space. And so he was like, yo, you really need to meet this guy, he's really cool. So we met. We actually ended up spending the entire dinner, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, like just sitting there chatting at the end of the table, ignoring like everyone else. Like, poor guy ignored his birthday. But yeah, so that's how we met. And during that whole time, what I was really going through, I like to say, I don't have a cool story of dropping out of college, but I did go to college, did accounting and finance, and then went into the industry and just was like, this is not me. This is not what I want to do. And at the same time, I was working with these startups and had a taste of true entrepreneurship and what that really meant and what that embodied. And so I think at that time was like a very strategic time, if you want to call it the universe or whatever, putting us really in the same room. And then it wasn't until about a year later where I was like, I had completely walked away from the financial space and stepped into really kind of like just not knowing what I was going to do, stepping away from all that identity and stepping into like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I've kind of seen it, done it a little bit, worked with some people like that. And then purely out of boredom, really got into real estate and was like, yeah, finished the course in like 5 weeks, just like completely killed it. And then really just called him. I remember he was still in real estate, and I was like, hey, I was like, what's up? And he was like, let's meet up. We met up at a coffee shop, and then I actually ended up working with him concurrently. And this is when he was just like, he had just like really begun to like start taking his business seriously from my perspective. And so I actually ended up going away to a few other brokerages, did some more consulting, and then it was like last May we met in Rock Bottom and talked for like 3 hours about like paradigm, self-development, and then like collaborating on a potential like real estate venture. And at that time, that's what we had fully intended. And then eventually he was like, hey man, like I really want you to come on the team. I think you'd be a great asset. And so I was like, yeah, we can, like, I really want to, do like a real estate tech company with you, but like maybe. And then we just became really great friends. Was introduced to Dylan McLeod, our other partner, and we shout out Dylan. But then and then like we just vibed really well. A lot of the I guess from the social dynamics to what everyone else was bringing to the table was just really good, and the synergy was there. And I mean, through the ups and downs of recruiting agents, building out systems, and being in a room for like 16 hours a day with in a 10 by 10, we call it a war room. It definitely builds character between your relationships with the other people. So we actually have that.
That exact one.
We do have that same. And so from that standpoint, from there we just started growing the real estate team. I pretty much handle he was gracious enough to kind of let me be the CEO while he handles what
I'll jump in here, because when I left school at my school, is a very entrepreneurship focused school, and they made us do this survey one time where they basically asked us like 8 or 9 questions. They didn't really tell us what it was for, and then at the end we basically like rated it 1 through 6 how it applied to us, and then they gave us a little sticker and like made us go put it on the board, just like the lower scores are here, the top scores are here. And I had the very like lowest score by like a foot, and then you started seeing like other people's, and then I'd come to find out that it was a fear of failure test. And I had the lowest fear of failure of the entire class by like a ridiculous margin.
You have no fear.
Yeah. And then the reason I say that is I thought I had such a low fear of failure. And then I go out there when I leave and I go do real estate, and I think I can go door knock and do all of these things. And I start to walk up to the first house. And I'm like stomach drops, don't know what I'm going to say. Kind of just sit in my car for an hour. I had to turn back. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And then I meet this guy, and I see who really doesn't have a fear. I mean, this guy defines how to go out there and just crush it. And I didn't have that aspect. I might have known deep down that it was all going to work out, and so I could take that action. But developing these things and giving that to other people that we bring onto our team is just so crucial. And so it really worked out well. I mean, our strengths just were so different, at least at the time, and we've kind of just built together. So
maybe your fear of failure was so great that you were like, fuck it, I'm not gonna do the things I gotta do to succeed. I know I'm gonna fail and I don't care, right? So you were, with the door knocking and, right? Because it's one of those things like, you can't have fear, right? When I say you can't have fear of failure, like you gotta be willing to go out there and fail, but, having that little bit of fear is good too, right? Keeps you alive. And a great book out there is Andy Grove, who was the CEO of Intel for, I don't know, multiple decades, which is Only the Paranoid Survive. But he talks about like how they grew and expanded. It's like you gotta have at least somebody in the organization that is that is constantly that worrier, and not worrying in a negative manner, right, but in a good manner of understanding you gotta be relevant, right? And so I love it, dude. So I want to talk to you guys real quickly before we talk about like what you're tactically doing inside your real estate team. When it comes to partnerships, right, because we see so many real estate agents partner, and so many, I mean, most that I see, very few do I see that are partnering for the right reasons. It's almost like a lot of people just don't want to go at it alone. So, like, they might be, oh, hey, I'm closing 25 deals a year. This agent over here is closing 25 deals a year. Like, they're almost like a clone of themselves. Yeah. But they just would rather be together than be alone. So, and a lot of times, I did this when I first got started too, I had a short-lived partnership where it was just like, well, you're doing your production, I'm doing my production. It started off as just, let's share expenses, let's share an assistant, let's, but then it just, that got muddied, and then it just made sense. So let's just put everything in a pot, right? But then it doesn't always weigh itself out. So you gotta, with partnerships, it becomes so critical, right? Because you gotta have skill set fits. Like, you guys are opposites, right? So like, your weaknesses are your strengths and vice versa, right? And same with your third partner, right? So, but then from there, you also have the other component, which is like, you gotta have the same core values, you gotta have the same vision, you gotta be willing to sit in that 16-hour-a-day war room each and every day, sacrifice personal levels. And like, in business, we talked about big goals, but nobody talks about big sacrifices. Yeah, like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And you gotta, like, so there's so many little moving parts here that come to a successful partnership, and you guys have done such a good job at it. What advice would you give our audience that's thinking about partnering, that's thinks it might be a way to go of how to go out there and identify and like, what have you guys done? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Gosh, I was like, I could think of so many things you would say that I like couldn't say the right way. So I would definitely say, from the standpoint of like, when you're thinking and walking into a partnership, the way I feel we've all addressed it is, one, talk about the big things early, the things that potentially are going to be your pain points, and like understand like where that person is operating and how they operate, and that's just getting to know that person, but also understanding like keeping yourself in check would probably be the biggest thing. And I'll let you elaborate on this one because you explain it way better than I do. But as far as like just understanding, letting go of your ego and like willing to like get outside of yourself, and that is like the most ridiculous thing, like from the outside looking in, but like when you're in the moment, and it's like him and I, it's so funny, when we like clash and we have our moments, we fight or whatever, it's crazy because like sometimes we'll like yell at each other for like 10 seconds, like yelling, and then it's like, dang, like
we did it again.
Not even 50 seconds later, it's like, dude, I'm sorry, man, I shouldn't have said that. You know what I mean? I was operating here. And so we, like, that sounds super technical to start breaking down like every argument. Like, they're few and far between, but we tend to definitely put everything out in the open, from what's bothering us, both personal and professional, what struggles we're coming up against, and we really air it out. Like, it's almost barbershop talk almost sometimes.
The way I would liken this, because a lot of people say do or don't partner with friends or family or anything like that, and part of the reason is, when you're with family, it's like you're too close to tell them certain things, or you're just gonna fight, or things go wrong there. I don't really operate within any of those methodologies personally. The way I see it, taking a step back from all of that, is if you, like, how bad does someone want it, and what are they made of, and what are they willing to do, and where are they going? And the four of us, I mean, it's the three of us, and then on another couple companies we have a fourth partner, so the four of us in this war room, we want it, and we have that same drive. We're all drivers there. And the way I see it, when you have that, if you're willing to learn what you need to learn, if you're willing to do what you need to do to get there, honestly, the strengths and the weaknesses, they don't matter to me. It's are you willing to get there, and are you willing to learn what you need to learn to get there? And so that's why we have such a huge focus on personal development. And when he said you have to get beyond yourself, really what we mean is, when you go into any partnership, you are a somebody. You have these likes, these interests, these identifications, and this is who you are. But if you can recognize that there's a reality beyond that, and you can break from who you are as a personality and kind of get beyond yourself in a way, there's just these, if you can commit to doing that and leaving the ego at the door and who you identify as at the door, and we become a team in that room, that's what matters to me. And to be honest, we're all very, very good at that, and we do a lot of advanced personal development work there to be able to do that. And then aside from that, everyone's striving all day long. And so it really works out. And then if we do have a conflict, we're very, very open and honest with each other. And if we disagree, that's why it comes to a head, and then it just fizzles out, because we don't let things build up in that way. And I think that's very important as well.
Yeah, love it, dude. So I know you said that it's what their drive is, and it's like, okay, well, here's the end game goal. Like, how bad do you want it? But then from a skill set component, I know you mentioned that matters more than the skill set, and I agree in that. Like, look, if you want it bad enough, you have one of the necessary skill sets, right? But there's only so many skill sets that we can learn and expand, and you guys do all have unique skill sets, right? And I guess that's the reason I'm bringing it up is because there is some component to that. Yeah, like you guys can go out there and gain those skill sets, but if you all have that same hustle, all have that same drive, all have that same want and desire, but then you have the unique skill sets, like, dude, it's fucking hard when you're starting a business and wearing all the hats, you know, compared to like you got your other partner that's, you know, brilliant and badass at marketing, you know, right? Like you're brilliant and badass at technology and systems and automation and right? And you've got the real estate experience and, you know, other elements of it where you can each, you know, kind of wear your own hat and like have extreme ownership of these things. You know, kind of talk to us about that too of, you know, because I'm guessing that is a lot of, you mesh personality-wise and drive-wise, but also, like, would that have been enough to partner if it wasn't the, oh, fuck, like, dude, if I partner with Jonathan, we would then explode because he brings this skill set to the table?
I would say that there's a lot of unknowns when you partner in terms of how it's going to, like your skills are going to complement each other. It's really hard, I think, to partner because you think your skills are going to complement, because you can say that from the outside, but then the second you partner, it's like, well, you don't know how they're going to mesh together until they mesh together. And that's really hard. And that's why a lot of partnerships fail, is they don't know how it's going to be when they get together. And that's truly why I think you're right. It's like you have to look at, can the technical skills complement each other? Can the personalities complement each other in different ways? And that's a very, very good way to look at it. But then from there, I think what matters in keeping it alive is that, you know, that drive to that vision and then that ability to get beyond yourself. But you're right. It's like they do have to mesh. It's just hard to see how it's going to happen until it happens. You know, it's like when you mix two ingredients together, you can say they're going to do this, but you put them in the same thing. It's like, well, you have that.
Well, one thing I think to elaborate and just to, I guess, put an analogy in, I guess, to simplify things, it's like you have 4 chefs in the kitchen, right? And so it's like at which point do you said extreme ownership, and so it's funny, it's just I'll be doing sales calls, recruiting, and whatever I'm doing on this, and then he's definitely like, oh, the instructor, and he knows the systems, and he built out Coca University, so he's working on that. And then you have Dylan, and he's doing branding and yada yada yada, right? And he's building out that. And then we have our other partner, and he works on a separate business, but he's doing his stuff. And so because we all buy into the same vision and what we're doing, 4 chefs in the kitchen, it's like, you know, whether someone's cooking a main course and everyone else is doing the sides or whatever, at a moment's notice, any one of us could switch and do exactly something else, gets increasing us and getting us to that vision that we all have together. And I think that's, I mean, I don't know if you want to.
I would a little, because a lot of the time people don't like to have multiple chefs in the kitchen. But I think what's cool here for our partnership is when we bring on a business partner, I don't want to partner with someone in that way at that level if they can't be a chef in their own right. But if we're going to hire employees or have people come in under us that aren't, you know, having an ownership, then they don't need to be a chef. They can do that one role. So we really do cross-train each other a ton, and we might have different strengths and weaknesses, but we really work hard on overcoming those weaknesses and at least having some level of competency where once we had a weakness, it's like you have someone whose strength is your weakness. Why not learn from them too? So we do help each other grow in that way too. So we don't even, I don't look at it as like my old weaknesses that I had before I partnered with him. I'd say I'm a lot better in those areas just from learning from him and our other partners in those ways as well. So
and I love it, man. It's like you know, I'm so uncorporate, you know, right? Like my partner here at Revisto, right? I just brought her on as a partner last year. She was my first hire ever. Started off, you know, $12 an hour admin. You know, this was 2006. Yeah, right. And you know, last year I mean, she'd grown and built the whole team with me, right, over the years, and you know, she's leveled up and did an amazing job at anticipating who she needed to become, and you know, so I gave her ownership last year and brought her in as a partner, and and you're right. I mean, like, I could jump in and do her role, right? She could jump in and do mine, and she has, and I have, right? But it's like, she runs all the operations for the support side, right? And then anything contractual when it comes to that, and then I run all the kind of the coaching and training aspect of it. So we have those roles, but I mean, yeah, we could jump in, be cross-trained, whatever, and then it becomes cool because then you know how to support each other that much more too. Yeah, right. When you're cross-trained and you can relate with what the other partner is doing,
I have a tip for any real estate partnerships as well, because there's so many different types of partnerships, different businesses. Because I was talking to a friend of mine, and then another. I was talking to two different people with the same problem in terms of partnership. People who partner in real estate tend to try to make it really complicated. And I think it's as simple, and I learned this from you back in the day, was when you partner, you're a new entity, and you're essentially building a team. Or so let's take the Coca Group, for example. It's not, let's say Andrew does a deal, how much of that deal does Jonathan get? It's how much of that deal does the new entity get? And then from there, that entity can net that commission against any expenses, and at the end of the day you have partners with whatever interest, but you have to build the business. And so if there's two people partnering in the real estate industry, often what they'll do is say, well, how much of each deal do I get or do you get? And they don't look at it as a third entity getting that percentage and then splitting it. So, and just from what I've seen, people who are partnering, at least in real estate, don't tend to treat their partnership as an entity. I think that's the first problem.
Yeah, well, they just don't actually have a business, right? Because the only way to have a business is, you get yourself one real estate, your PLLC, operates as S corp, and pay yourself payroll. And I couldn't agree more. And real estate is, every business is a little bit different. Like when we're talking, or you guys were talking about the skill sets, right? I just started thinking about my supplement company. Right. Well, my partner in my supplement company, we have three total partners, but one of my partners is a biochemist. Right. Like he's spent 20 years learning formulations, and like I can't do that. Like without him, that doesn't exist. Right. So he comes up with the formulations. Right. My job is I run back end systems and operations. Like, dude, we have a supplement out right now, and I mean, I take it, I know it works, but I couldn't tell you the fucking ingredients and then what each one does, right? But real estate is a little bit of a different beast. It's not as technical as some other spaces with some of that. So, dude, Jonathan, I'm curious, dude, with your background before you got in real estate, with consulting and helping these startups, and which is super cool, right? Because you got to kind of like test drive entrepreneurship to know it was for you, and you felt that pull towards it. What were some of the things that you learned from working with startups? Because I'm sure you saw some kill it and some fail. Like, what were some of the key components? Like, if you had, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 biggest learning lessons that you learn of, like, here are the ingredients that either make you make it or break it for you that you've been able to apply here.
Gosh, I would probably start at the top on what partners you're choosing and who you're choosing to work with at the early stages. And that, like, the personnel that you bring on, we definitely implement a very family atmosphere, and that's not like in a way like the typical like family business. It's more or less like you treat others with so much respect, and you do unto others the way you'd want them to do to you. And one example is, like, for our group, I always tell, when I meet with agents, I'm like this. I'm like, okay, so a lot of the times when you're gonna, hey, I can't show up to a showing, and the person's like, how much are you gonna pay for that? And it's like, no, like, just go do it. Just go help that person, because they're gonna return that later. And having people that are always looking out and understanding, like, putting themselves in your shoes and understanding where you're coming from. And that's just from personnel, like anyone you're bringing on, to really just your partnerships and understanding, like, you need to have this synergy, and one is like hugely trust. If you don't like trust that person to have your back in a dogfight, like why would you even like step into business with them? Because this isn't easy. It's never going to be easy. You're going to be in predicaments, whether it's financial or your personal or your business, just anything. You need to be willing and open and honest with each other, and always transparent. That'd be the first thing. The second thing I would definitely say is surround yourself with, it's all people. I'm primarily going to talk about people. I don't really think it's ever the product. It's all people. And the next thing I would say is when you're bringing in personnel, and this is literally what I say every meeting when I walk in and talk to other agents, is I'm always telling them, I don't want to work with real estate agents. I don't want to work with, and essentially I don't want to work with an employee mentality. I want to work with business owners and entrepreneurs. And the reason I say that is because those are the people I am going to be spending time with and surrounding myself with, and likewise with them. And so I wouldn't have it any other ways. That's what I live, eat, and breathe, and same with my team and my guys, and we all do that. And so from that standpoint, the people who bring a business owner mentality tend to weather the storm, tend to innovate, tend to bring creative solutions to whatever you're doing, whether it's the most technical, monotonous thing you can think of, to just like, hey, like, maybe we do this for our cultural event, like just all around. I would definitely say I think it's all a people thing for me. So
yeah, love it, dude. So Andrew, all right, dude. So I'm gonna get like deep into just straight real estate now, right? So with what you guys do, and from a tactical system strategy standpoint, your team, well, you went from being in the business prior, and decent first year, then you had some ups and downs, to where you guys are on fire now, right? Like you have really grown, expanded, doing it right. Outside of the partnership, because we've talked about the power there, from an actual like taking action, tactical implementation standpoint. What are the differences that you are doing now versus how you used to operate that is allowing you to create the rapid success?
I think the number one thing that I have now that I didn't have, or we have now that we didn't have, is Coca University. And essentially what all that is our team training. So what happens is when a new agent joins, we essentially put them through 20 plus hours of team training, and they'll learn, in my opinion, one of the most clear paths for success. But on top of that, they'll also learn all of the little things that they have questions about when they first join. Because, and we were talking earlier off camera, everyone says they have the best training. And so is he, being at different brokerages, we've had the opportunity to go through a lot of people's training. And while there's a lot of good training out there, the one problem I had noticed was that it's not chronological enough for someone whose mindset is fresh and new, or whose mindset is someone who's not producing, to being somewhere where they need to be a world-class realtor. And so I think the chronological order of things is lacking. Usually you have libraries of training that people can pull from, but they don't know where to start, and it's very confusing. So what we did was we have step-by-step for 20 hours. It's all in order, an order that we think they should go through. And then that is just so easy for us as a business, because we put an agent in that training, and we don't give them leads until they complete the training. We don't order the business cards. We don't do anything until they complete the training. And when they complete the training, they'll have far less questions. They'll know exactly what they need to be doing. And then piggybacking off of that, another thing we have in place is the tracker. We didn't have our numbers tracking dialed in until very recently, within the last 3 or 4 months. And so we have Coca University. We have the numbers tracking for our agents, and these systems can now scale, and that's why we're recruiting so heavily. And you plug someone into that, and they come out the other side, a world-class realtor with all the tools in their possession and leads and the ability to go and generate business for themselves. All you need is the right people at that point. And before, when I was going up and down and before we partnered, I had some videos, I had some form of numbers tracking, but it wasn't dialed in, and it wasn't scalable to the point where we're talking dozens or hundreds of people could use it at one time. It was more like you could maybe have a handful of people use it at once, but now it's really scalable and dialed in, and that's overall the difference, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's, unfortunately, the training in the real estate industry is pretty poor, right? Industry-wide. And you look at, people that are known for training, like let's say Keller Williams, right? Which, when you look at the big franchises, has the best agent training out there, right? But it's still, like, you still end up either having to pay for the advanced training, even there, like you got to pay for Bold or pay for, whatever. And even then, it's tough because it is. You're right. It's so overwhelming. It's shotgunning, and like you said, the methodical approach of it. I look at it like you go buy a piece of IKEA furniture, right? And they give you, and you're looking at, you got all these fucking 1,000 pieces scattered out. Yeah, right? Well, like, what are you gonna do with all that, right? Like, you need the instructions. Like, you follow step 1, that leads you to step 2. Step 3, it's like building Legos almost, right? With this and doing it in the correct way. You know, like, a huge mistake I see so many agents make is they jump in the business, everybody was obsessed with leads, right? And I'm like, look, if you don't have your, like, number 1, have your tracking dialed in.
Absolutely. Number
2, your CRM dialed in. And when I say dialed in, like, a CRM dialed in means all you have to do every single day is show up and complete your task queue. Like, you do that every day, you're kicking ass, right? Your buyer listing presentation dialed in, and then your sphere of influence, strategy dialed in. Like, and that'd probably take a new agent a full 30 days, right? That's not even counting like spending an hour every single day going through the MLS and getting to, like we have, plan in place for new agents for that stuff. But it's like, that first 30 days, like slowing down enough. Everyone wants to go fast. And it's like, you got to slow down in order to go fast, right? And I get it, they're impatient, whatever. But like leads, I always tell people, if you jump into lead gen without having those elements in place, like I just told you, I'm like, dude, you're either going to go broke or you're going to burn out, and probably a combination of both. Yeah, right? So you can't put the cart before the horse, right? And I mean, you show me a university, we'll probably have some screenshots. Are you cool
absolutely.
With that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give you guys a sneak peek of what all that looks like so you can see this.
Yeah, if there's any agents in Denver.
Yeah, boom. So then, because I've got an online university as well, which I know you've seen, and we actually were comparing universities before we jumped on. Mine's better. No, just kidding. Totally just playing. But anyway, with that, like, I've done it where I've went so hands off, where it's like I've went everything digital, right? But then we found that, man, it's got to be kind of like a mesh of some live in person and some digital a little bit with that. So do you guys have, outside of the online university, which is great for mastery, they can do it on their own hours, got a buyer consultation tomorrow, you can stay, get done working, and then go spend time with your family, and then from 9 o'clock to midnight, rehearse it and role play it and go out there and kick ass the next day. So it's great for all those things. But do you have an integrated kind of like what do you do for the live element?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can talk to this too. We have basically a weekly class, 3 or 4 classes a month in our training room. So, and then we actually do have our first team party coming up. And so we have meetings as well, but what we do is we treat these parties as like a 20-minute meeting, talk about business, and then we have food, we have drinks, we have everything that at the venue. I think we're going to explore venues, but we have one coming up in a couple weeks actually. And what's really exciting about that is I don't know that the entire team has met each other, and on top of that, I don't know if the entire team has met all of our vendors yet. So what I like about these is it's a chance for us to all connect and do some business, but then ultimately meet everyone. And if I can have all 11 agents talking to the lender we use and the title rep and the insurance people, and just everyone knows each other face to face, I think that's very important as well. So you can talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so I think just from the standpoint, we actually just the beginning of, towards the end of last year, we started taking these classes and teaching. We are with Keller Williams, and so what we did was we just like, hey, we want to teach, and we had the training, Coca University done, the branding was done, and it was all cleaned up. And so Andrew's definitely like the instructor, like he dissects things and says things in ways that is very technical and very applicable to, I think, the real estate industry as a whole. But what we're finding and what we're doing is we're opening Coca University not just to our group, but to the people that, whoever wants to come. If you want to come, you can come and basically learn. And learn how we do things and the way we operate, and kind of see a little bit of our culture at the same time. And so I think that's a great element for us as well. And I totally agree with the fact that the training can't all be digital. There has to be this element of, one, being personal. And I have agents like call me, not on the regular, but sometimes they're like, hey, I got this like one-off situation. Like, what do I do? And then coaching them through that. And usually we try to limit that to like 15 minutes, but like it definitely does work. I mean, adding a little bit of a hybrid if you would, definitely speaks volumes, and it builds that relationship not only with your agents, because they like you really genuinely care, like you want them to succeed, but at the same time it's like they have this like framework and this like robust like Coca University that they can always look back on when it's like they're writing a contract at 11 p.m. and it's like they're not going to pick the phone and call me, but they can go and they're like, hey, I have this right here, I need to write this additional provision, blah 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 blah. Tells them everything they need to know. So overall, I think what we're doing is we're really trying to create a culture, and from that goes outside of Coca University Online. That goes basically our hands in our ecosystem as far as our vendors and who we use, and having that relationship be built for each and every agent.
Yeah. So then, out of curiosity, man, what are the 4 classes that you guys teach on a monthly basis?
Sure.
And why those 4?
So we have You're Doing Social Media Wrong, because I think that's just probably the most obvious one. We have a lot of, I think the average realtor is a 50-something-year-old.
Middle-aged.
Yeah. I mean, and we're in our early 20s, and I think we're just more naturally gifted with social media being younger because we grew up with it. So it's one of those we can help people understand the ins and outs of it all. Also more in-depth things for the younger people that maybe they're not doing that they can do in a real estate sense. We have Know Your Numbers, the path to 100K. We have, I guess that's 2. We have how to generate leads through Facebook, through Facebook advertising. And then we have, high-level negotiation. So we go into more structured negotiation principles that you might not know, but then we also start to apply it in different, depends on the audience, we apply it to the actual industry and how it applies in maybe a commission split negotiation, or maybe it's just a realtor-to-realtor negotiation. We try to get 3 or 4 of those in a month, so that we always have it rotating for newer agents or agents that haven't gone to the last one and things like that.
Yeah, love it. So then the Know Your Numbers and the path to 100K, I mean, I think it's pretty dope. Is that, is that really tracker based? You talk about having a tracking system. Is that really going, because it's funny, man, because we have our university as well, and then we have 4 live classes that we do as well, and our 4 are and what we started doing is we just stripped away of people that go through it, like what were the elements that they struggled on, right? I had a lot of questions that was kind of hard for a new agent plugging in, or I shouldn't say new agent to our team. They could be seasoned, they could be in the business 6 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter, right? And those things for us was tracking has always been a huge one. Like, people just don't get it, they don't understand it. Realtors naturally freaking hate numbers and Excel sheets and shit. But tracking, CRM, right? We had to have just more advanced putting in dummy leads and just more advanced in-person training on that. CMA has been a big one for us. So we have that, so these are every week. So Monday through Thursday, and it's an hour, same place. They can choose to show up or not. And then the other component is, just a high-level business plan, which goes into tracking, but just really getting them to understand their business, because we'll do initial business plan with them. Right. A lot of people still don't understand it, right? Of that breakdown. So kind of talk to us, because dude, knowing your numbers. I mean, like Jeff Bezos says, right, who is the richest dude to ever exist on the planet, right? First dude to break a $100 bill, right? So he's like, look, man, if you do not know your numbers in business, if you don't know your data, you are going to fail. Like, there is no you're going to struggle. It's just you are going to fail. And we see it all the time. You might get lucky and have a couple of good years. Market shit, you gotta know your shit. Right? So kind of walk us through, because I think that's so important. Well,
what happened at first was I had this tracker that I loved, and I'm like, oh, I can track my numbers now, but I didn't. And it's like, well, how you can have all the systems you want, but if you don't work them, you're screwed. And I would say that I've had coaches, I've had mentors. I was in a mentorship program at Keller Williams and stuff like that. And I think at the end of the day, with all my coaches, all my mentors, they could never force me to track my numbers. And no matter how much you know, you don't really get that. And so that was such a big focus for us in building the team. Was I know they're independent contractors. I know we can't force them to do anything, but one thing that we talked about this a bit earlier, but why we offer leads in part and why we love offering leads is if they don't track their numbers and if they don't do the calls and they don't do these things, well, there go the leads. And so just the incentives to make someone for their own benefit track the numbers is so important. And it's just like, how do you get them to do it? Yeah. So that's the way we get them to do it. And it's, yeah, you're right. It's so important. Until you actually follow through on tracking numbers, I don't know how you can scale, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. You got it. And dude, I think we all go through it. I was as bad as anybody, right? And dude, I was paying a ton of money, right? So from year one, I was like 6 or 7 months in the business. I had an agent that was like had the office right across the hall from me. I've always been a big believer in like, dude, having an office at the office and just show up every day, right? So be the first one in, last one out, show up every freaking day, right? That's it's attributed so much to my personal success. I mean, even now today, like I don't need to be here. I got a pretty sick home office, but I'm still in every day, or at least when on most days. It's very rare that I'm not. But this dude comes to me and he gives me some Jim Rohn CDs. And I never, dude, like, until that point in my life, 23 years old, like, I never actually read a book in my life. Like, I never self-developed. And, but then once I, started getting into Jim Rohn, man, I got hooked. And from that point on, I never went without a mentor or coach. And like, back then, when, like, it's kind of crazy to think about 2005 when I got in the business, dude. There's no smartphones. We're still using like razor flip phones, right? Dude, we're just starting to use scanners. Right? There was no DocuSign, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there's no podcast, there's none of this shit. Right? So there's no digital programs either. Like you had, I was paying, out of the gate, 30, 40, 50 grand a year in coaches and consultants, and now that's like $250,000 today that I pay in coaches and consultants. But I just keep leveling up with it. But even though, dude, no matter how much I paid them, they all told me, track your numbers, right? And even though I'm stroking the check to them, I'm choosing them as my mentor, my coach, I knew better, and I wasn't tracking my numbers until I had enough pain delivered. Right? I was like year number 4 in the business, man. I was ready to quit. And I had the best year of my life financially, netted like $780 that year or whatever, and I was ready to fucking quit because I was working 4 a.m. to midnight, no quiet of life. My wife and we just had our first daughter, lived right across the street, like literally it was less than half a mile away, and I go 2-3 days without seeing them. But it was just this, like, I couldn't stop, I couldn't slow down, and it just sucked. Like I was ready to go back to making 30 grand, 40 grand a year. Right? Of course I didn't want to walk away from the income, but the only solution to solving that problem was to know my numbers so I could eliminate the waste and scale it. But I had to wait till, like, for me it's been this, hopefully those watching and listening can, it's great to learn from your own pains and mistakes, but the smartest way to learn is from others, right? I've had this, I didn't start taking care of my health until I became morbidly obese and lost my health, right? Didn't start taking care of my finances until, I made it and I lost everything and put myself in $100,000 of credit card debt and whatever. Didn't start tracking until I'm like this guy that I have to get my ass fucking beat and get knocked down before I listen. I'm trying to improve that, but right? You have these low moments. But I think we all go through it. But dude, once you implement, man, it was I realized right out of the gate. Well, about 90 days into it, I don't know if you've experienced this. I guess about 90 days into it or so. Dude, about half of all my time, energy was spent on useless shit. It was irrelevant, right?
Yeah. I think that was a huge problem for me, and that's probably the biggest problem for all new agents. They're just sitting on their hands. Not all the time, but sometimes you're accidentally putting it into the wrong thing. You think what you're doing is the right thing to be doing, right? And then it's not. And then other times you do have the agents that are just sitting on their hands. But either way, it's like, here's the plan, follow it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I feel kind of blessed to I've got licensed in 2005 to not have the distractions there today, because there was no YouTube. Right? It's so easy today to be like, oh, I'm working, and they're watching YouTube videos from other top, or they think they're top realtors on YouTube. I think there's only probably 3 actually YouTubers that are real estate agents that are actually legit. The rest of them are just a bunch of charlatans that make themselves look legit. But it's so easy to get caught up in that, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say don't listen to podcasts, but outside of GSD mode, they're all shit. Don't listen to it. No, just kidding.
It's true.
Just playing. No, there's some other ones out there that my homies that put out great content. But it's so easy to get caught up in that today. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like you get busy, but not unproductive things. Like you should be pounding that pavement, right? So like, what do you do then to ensure? Let's just say they go through the training, they've come through these meetings now, and they're plugged in. Like, what? How do you ensure that they are taking action on what they need to be taking action on?
You mean how do I ensure other than the tracker or?
Yeah, I mean, because you're like what? Okay, if let's just say, dude, I went 2 weeks. I haven't showed up for a meeting and I haven't been updating my numbers. Like, what does this look like from there? I know you have leads and you can take away the leads, but like what? I guess it comes down to accountability, right? Like, what does that look like to because we can't force them, but you want to, and you can't motivate people, right? But you want to facilitate an environment where they become inspired. It's like, what do you guys do from that element?
You know, I think I am more of the guy that can walk someone through whatever the heck their problem is that they're trying to deal with. I know we were joking about it earlier because you have your business partner is better at that than you. But I think in terms of where we lie, if someone is hitting zeros on everything and they just don't know what the heck they're doing, I think it's important to just figure out why. I mean, are they disillusioned to that point where they don't want to even go out of their house and knock on doors if that was their plan? Well, like, why they're getting zeros, I think matters sometimes. And if you can help beyond just the professional scope, that goes... I mean, I think that's more important, honestly, in terms of how we can train our agents, because if you can break that professional barrier and you can help them in a way that they never thought you could help them, because I think we are able to do that, I think that will not only help their career, but I think that goes above and beyond. So I think why matters. If they're disillusioned or if they're just not motivated, like, why? Because I've been there. I was there really bad for a few months, and it's just if it's one reason versus another, there's going to be completely different approaches I think you need to take. So I think it's a one-on-one type of meeting that we would have. But typically people will hit their numbers or at least track their numbers. So it's like it's not always like that so far, but I'm sure as we grow to maybe like dozens or 100 agents, you're going to get people that are just ghosting and not even tracking their numbers, not doing anything. And then what do you do? I think, but definitely one-on-ones are huge for us for anything like that. I would
just piggyback off that. What I would say is, I tend to keep like, I'm really like, I assume familiarity with all our agents, whether I like really know them or I maybe not as close with them as I am maybe another agent or whatever, but I'm always like, from really just texting someone, just like, hey, what's up, what's going on, and like completely out of the loop. Like it'll be like I haven't talked to them in a few days and I'm like, what's up, how's it going, can we get on a call, and just jump on a call and just like talk to them about their life, what's going on, and it's like they're not long calls, but like just really showing that like, hey, like I care, and from a standpoint when someone's not, making their calls, I just very upfront with them. I come from a, like, I guess, let me put it this way. It's a quote I heard is, you can't inspire a person because it's like trying to push a rope. So I can never instill inspiration inside of them. The only thing I can do is motivate them, and that's fleeting, right? So then getting down to like why they're not making their calls, or like, what failures have they had? How did that make them feel? Like, how could they be better, and turn it into something that's productive rather than like throw my hands up. It's, it is the way it is. Let's talk through it. Let's explore.
I actually have a very technical process for this, and the way I see it, no matter if they're producing or if they're not producing, or if they're motivated, they're not motivated, they have a frame of reference. They have basically their awareness, their consciousness, how they perceive reality. And from within that frame of reference, they create meaning. They build a model of understanding everything around them. And some people's very limited frames of reference, if maybe they're caught up within certain paradigms, they create the meaning such that life sucks, or I shouldn't do this, or I hate this, or this is terrible. And if we can expand someone's frame of reference, if we can find a way to get them to accept certain information that would cause them to evaluate the world around them differently, there you go. And so that's what a lot of the advanced personal development topics include. That's a lot of the stuff that we do outside of real estate that I think is very important for people like that, but it also important for the high producers as well, I would say.
Yep, couldn't agree more. And I'm going to put like a, what do you call a fucking bookmark that shit, right? So I don't know the technical term because I want to go deep into that here in a moment, because I know that you guys, I mean, obviously anybody that's listening to this right now can tell that that's a passion and you're really good at it. And I want to talk about your new program and all of this stuff here in a moment. But before we get into that, man, because you guys are in, when you're in the stage that you're in with the growth mode that you're in, and you Andrew, you made a comment to me before we hit the record button, started this, of like, you're like, hey man, building out all this stuff, man, it was straight up true GSD, right? Like you're pulling all nighters down, like having to put this in, because it's, it's, I mean, to be honest, like I didn't have my online university until I was out of production, where then that's my full focus. But you're in the balance of, hey man, you're in production, but you're also recruiting agents, plus you're building out the systems, plus you're coaching, plus you're training, right? And I hate the word balance, because I don't know if there is such a thing as balance, as Gary Keller talks about, it's kind of a counterbalance. But, dude, like, in order to go out there and grow and expand, have a true business and continue growing that business, to get to the point where you get out of production, like, you got to make it happen, right? So, like, walk us through, and the reason I want to ask this to you guys, because, dude, to be honest, a lot of my systems, they weren't what they are today until I got out of production, right? I mean, we were like a 10 agent, counting myself, team, doing 400 or 500 deals a year, right? Almost not doing that much short production that we're doing right now with, 50, 60 agents. But so much of that production was from me, and it was just massive hustle. And, but our system, dude, if you saw my systems 6 years ago, you'd be like, what the F, dude? Yeah, right? It was, I mean, we just lived out of Google Drive, and I mean, they were enough to get by, but not like they are now. So, but I also can't fathom, like I didn't have them dialed in when I was in production for a reason. I mean, they were good enough to get us by, but nothing like you guys have. I can't fathom doing all that production, all the other things that come with it, and building those. So kind of walk us through, like, what does that look like, and how do you balance all those hats, dude?
Honestly, it's somewhat similar. I haven't done as much production personally in the last 6 months. I probably did more homes in 1 month before that than I did in the last 6 or 7 months building all of this. And so I did take a step back from the actual real estate production. And I think if I hadn't, to be honest with you, I don't know how you'd complete that, because you're right. There are some nights, one night in particular, where I think in the program we were going to talk about, I think we have 58 videos, and I pulled an all-nighter, and I think over the span of the 8 or 9 hours of nighttime, I only finished like 6 videos, because it's so hefty editing all of these hours of content down into something that's a final product. And then that's not even Coca University. When we're doing Coca University, it's like you got to plan out all the slides, you have to build out everything, you have to go and figure out what you're going to talk about, and then you have to record it after that. And so it's just hours and hours and hours, and it's thankfully I wasn't doing as much production when I built it, but it never ends. It feels like, there's so much content that you're building.
Well, I think that's a good point, though, and important to bring up and people to understand is, like, because a lot of people think, like, oh, well, like, when this happens, then I'll start that, or like, oh, when this is done, it'll be so nice. But I like compare like systems. It's like the people that paint the Golden Gate Bridge. They start on one side, it takes like a year to paint to get the other side, and they have to start all over because the paint now is flaking, right? It's like, the last time that I built out Revista U, which has been about a year. Now we've replaced some videos and we keep it up to date, but I'm getting ready to re-scrape it and revamp it again. And it was 300 hours, just over 300 hours last time that we built it out, because like you said, everything's got to coincide to be perfect, and then you got to be so methodical with it, and there's so much that goes, and then you got to freaking build it, like from a technical aspect, and all of that stuff. But knowing what you know now, if you were to, like, out of the gate as a new agent, started 3 years ago doing this stuff, like in a boot camp, which you've been through, and that's how we met. I talk about like the daily power hour. I'm like, guys, like, this isn't gonna happen overnight, but if you just set up Monday through Friday, your daily power hour, where you are building your systems, after 12 months, 24, like, but it's always ongoing. It never stops, because you get to another level, like, everything breaks and you need new systems. Right?
Thank God you told me that a year and a half or 2 years ago, and because that was the thing we honored every day, no matter what. I mean, maybe we did bad or we did good on certain things. The one thing that was always honored was the systems power hour. I remember seeing a little cubicle with our first agent, Mitch, and he'd help too, and we just work on systems. And it was one of those, like, 90 minutes a day, 2 hours even sometimes, to just be build systems. And the funny thing is, you can't create a university until you have systems, because all of the systems and the processes you have for buying, selling, all of this stuff have to go into the university. So you don't build the systems while you're building the university. You have to build the systems before you can even start to plan out, like, training videos for university. So it was one of those, like, we probably spent a year building systems before we even started trying to build a university. So yeah, it's just, thank God that we honored that, though, because I don't know how I'd build a university without the systems.
Yeah.
It's like, making me think back on it. It's like, wow. Yeah. It's like,
dude, and like, nothing is too small. Yeah, right. Like when you order business cards, like just anything done once, you develop a process and a system around it. Just even the most minute little things. Yeah, right. And I don't think people realize, like with our team, we run on about half, if not a third, of the staff that most teams my size operate on. Yeah, right. When our average transaction coordinator can handle about 35 closings a month before that capacity. People are like, how do you do that? Right? And it's just like, well, we obsess over, like, if there's an email that's ever sent more than once, we have templates for them now. Right? Like every little thing, like we obsess over, like, hey, if we got to copy and paste this, and this is what's dope about technology with Zapier, whatever, of, okay, how do we put a comment in here and have it create a custom template email automatically, so you're not having to do, like, I'm trying to eliminate 2 clicks down to 1 click on a mouse. Right? That obsession, all that shit adds up over time, right?
Absolutely. And it's the little things that you don't realize too, that then we have to go back and create another video and another. And so that's kind of the process right now. Is actually, at the time I created the login to one of our systems, it was different than it is now. And we had one of our agents, Daisy, the other day bugging us like, hey, did you change this login? Why can't I log in? And then now we have to go back and record videos for that too. So it's just the little things that you don't realize that will either break, or that you have to do more than once, that you're not being efficient in, that you have to go back and start adding more. So I'm sure that 20 hours will jump to far more.
Also too, when we were talking before this, you had mentioned how, like, you're adding into your training as far as, like, FAQs that you get from your agents, or just like things that you may, like, wasn't exactly clear in your training. And that's exactly what we're doing. We have, like, a running list of, like, oh, new agents are going to ask this, and here's what they're asking, and, like, maybe here's some new questions that we don't even have in Coca University. Let's add that in there. And so we have, like, this running list. We have this huge whiteboard, and we're just, like, writing the questions up, or, like, where we can potentially add some more detail to clarify those types of things. And it's just like, one thing after another. It's like, I would say daily we have something new that we could probably add.
Well, and the cool thing about it, though, too, and I guess this is for those that are watching and listening that might be freaking out right now about, like, us geeking out on systems and processes, but it's like, look, you build them as you go. right? So go, hey, I just got off the phone with a potential seller, and I set a listing appointment. Okay, what were the questions that I asked? What was the script that I used? And you can just record yourself and then transcribe it. Okay, how do I prepare for this listing presentation? What point do I show up? What do I say when I knock on the door? What's my like? You just do it as you're going. Oh man, I got to order professional photos. Yep. Okay, you screencast it, and you're writing those steps as you're doing it. So it's not like you got to take all this time to just create them, at least to start, right? It could just be creating them as you go. And really that's what I teach in the boot camp, and that's my recommendation to agents, so they don't have to freak out thinking, oh shit, I gotta add all this extra work, right? But it's like, when do they start? Day one. Right? Because by the time you need systems, like so many people are like, oh, well, I'm not gonna start putting systems in place to that level until I'm ready to start a team or whatever. I'm like, well, by the time you're ready for a team, you're gonna be so busy. Like, you're not gonna have to. Like, you create this ball down the hill, chase this ball down the hill, and you can never catch up. Then.
I used to get teased a lot when I was doing this, because I built the Coca Group logo with my little brother when I was first starting, and we just had the Coca Group logo, and it was just me. And I started at the same time as some other agents, and people would just be like, hey, Coca Group, how's that going? And stuff like that, and be like, why are you working on all these systems? Like, what's the point? It's just you. And I just had this vision in my head of what I wanted and how it was going to happen, and how to go about doing that. And it's like, well, I can't do this if I don't have this, and I can't do that if I don't have that. So it's like, well, I have to build this right now, even though I have no bit.
Piece of paper, you have everything.
You know what? Before I even got like my official license, I think I had like a mapped out piece of paper. I don't know what I wanted I think at that time I wanted to like own that Colorado Avalanche or something. I'm like, well, to do that, you need like $850 million in 2020 something, and it was just like one of those like reverse engineered maps of like how you could go about doing that. And I had just all of that, but I didn't necessarily have the, like, I don't know what other word than gusto to just see it through every single day. And so I struggled with that for a while. And then I think it just personally helped a lot to have Jonathan, Dylan, Craig, all of our business partners, just everyone there building it together is something that really, really added the energy behind the vision. So it's like, some people lack vision, they don't lack energy. But then I maybe lacked enough energy, but I didn't lack the vision. Yeah. So that was really cool for us, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have read Traction, the book Traction. It's such a dope book, and it's great for partnerships. With the whole meeting cadence and planning cadence. But he talks very heavily in that book of like most businesses, you have the visionary, and then you have the implementer. And usually a visionary is the implementer, but they need to come together to complement each other. And for a lot of people, right, it's very rare to have both. So made me think of that. So before we get into mindset, perspective, the lens, paradigm, whatever you want to call it, there, frame it. What is like the number one or two things that you guys are doing right now today in 2019 that is kicking ass for bringing in new business?
Ooh. I think we're getting a ton of Facebook leads. I know Facebook's probably not so cutting edge right now in terms of lead gen. It was really a thing a few years ago. Building funnels and ClickFunnels became a thing, and building funnels, that just entire sales process put on the web. I think we got into it a bit late, but we're still just crushing it with Facebook leads. So I'd say we're probably generating about I think last time we tracked is 1%, just about even in conversion with Facebook leads. And so that averages out really well for the numbers. And we didn't hop on the train until a bit late in terms of like using the Facebook leads with our agents. And so now that we finally had that in place, I think having the Facebook leads coming in and having them followed up within a certain time frame within the first 5 minutes and having that all dialed in is really the top lead gen source for us. Because to be honest with you, when people get into this business, they're not 20. Usually they have some form of sphere of influence. They're able to go and talk to old coworkers, old colleagues. But it's like, I got into this business, I didn't have a lot of friends in Denver because I went to school in Massachusetts, and I didn't have any coworkers because I didn't have a job before. And I had some friends, but they were also 20 years old, not buying a home. And so it's like, how do you go and get business? How do you build a sphere of influence? And so that was the first thing, is Facebook leads. Another thing that we did really, really well and that we continue to do pretty well is, I would say, giveaways. Giveaways have been around forever, but I think what people don't realize is that you can do giveaways really well on the internet or on social media, because you can target the giveaways to maybe the interest, or you can find groups of people interested in certain things. You do a giveaway, you capture a lot of information. I think my first year I did a giveaway and probably had like 400 people enter. And so like converted 6 of those, I think.
So give us like, okay, that one that you did, right? So,
sure.
So you had 400 people that opted into your list, 6 closings. How much did you spend on the gift for the giveaway?
Like $6,000, but I also didn't give away 6. So what it was is I bought season tickets for the Colorado Avalanche with the intention of giving them away. And I didn't really know how it was going to work back then. I figured I'd go with people. That's kind of what people think when they buy sports tickets. But something random just occurred to me because I didn't really have any people that I thought would be cool to go with. I was like, what if I just give them away? They don't want to go with me anyways. They probably want to take a +1. They'd have more fun if they went with them. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? And I ended up having, I just built a form and then posted it. And so I ended up, throughout the course of the season, having about 400 people enter. And the cool thing is you can ask whatever you want for them to enter the form. And it's just one of those, like, I probably gave away $3,000 worth of Avs tickets that year and probably went to half the games myself because, I don't know, I was a 20-year-old kid relishing and having Avs tickets. It was fun, right? So it's like...
Let's just say it was $6,000.
Yeah.
You end up spending that, right? At 6 closings, now you're in a marketplace with a little bit higher price point. So let's just say your average commission is $10,000.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like sticking $1 into an ATM and getting $10 spit back out.
Yeah.
Right? So you just fucking got $9 for free. So people are like, oh, well, I don't want to pony up $6,000. $6,000 to make 60. I'll take that fucking deal all day long. Yeah, right? So can you walk us through, when you say like forum and those, like I've never done a giveaway, not for real estate clients.
Sure.
Right? Like I'll do what, like I just did my first, like I gave away a free boot camp membership, gave away a free MacBook Air. Like I had like $4,000 worth of prizes on my last webinar, right? Which went really well.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm jumping on there for a few hours and spend a few grand to go out there and make, $30,000, right? So
Absolutely.
I've just never done it for real estate. So when you talk about posting in forums and different things, like kind of walk us through to give us an idea.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, you need a good Google, like a form, and I just use Google Form. It's free. Okay. It's simple.
Oh, so you're saying form, not forum.
Yeah, form, not form. So you build a form, you ask whatever you want to ask to make them a good lead, right? And then really it's just where can I post that form to get entries? If I'm doing a skiing giveaway or something, are there any skiing Facebook groups that I can join and post? I know someone did maybe, I forgot what they did. We've had our agents explore some of these different routes because right now I'm personally crushing it in the Avs group, and like I don't think anyone can really go in there and post the same form. Maybe they could, but I'm just doing so many giveaways in there. So it's like we just need to expand to maybe find other groups where we can do that too. So for anyone watching, it's like, yeah, we're probably gonna give away some concert tickets.
That's brilliant.
The thing I really liked about it was the value up front, because a lot of people, usually the advertising is, some kind of advertising for their brand, but it's like if you can give something up front, it's a sales funnel that you teach. It's you have to get a lead, you have to exchange something of value for their information, and so it's easy when you're exchanging something of value in a giveaway. It was just the easiest way for me to mine that sales funnel, I would say.
So you're not because you're posting these in free groups and other methods. So are you throwing any money at actual ads? So because
probably could, but
if you were spending $5 or $10 a lead on those 400, right, versus the price, and then you get everybody to opt in, you get the information data that you need, right? Like you're asking age, gender, you can ask
ask anything, man. You can ask a lot of stuff.
I don't know if you want to elaborate, I'll let you do this, but like there's almost like a craft, and like when you're posting these things on how to like manipulate inside like a group on how to get your post to the top so everyone sees it. There's like different nuances to it, and then also too, along with like the Google form, like again, like I don't know if you want to talk more about it, but it's more of an ecosystem of like, hey, we're not only just getting sales for us, but we have an opportunity to cross-sell too. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's true. If you want to put your vendors or your insurance people or your lenders info in there, we could probably ask them to cover some of that cost, but at that point it's like just gets kind of complicated because who owns the tickets? Can you actually do that? So we haven't actually tried to get anyone to cover that, but it's just cool for us to be able to add value to them because that's never a bad thing. So sometimes we'll just ask like, hey, do you need insurance, or would you be interested in lowering your monthly insurance bills? Just stuff like that is one of our questions too. And I think one thing I would say is if anyone does a giveaway, do a giveaway for something you're actually passionate about because you'll convert a lot better. It's not like you're always going to get 6 out of 400, and maybe you will, maybe you'll get more. But why I did without knowing anything at like 20, 21 years old was because I loved the Avs. I just grew up playing hockey. So it was one of those, like, if I talked to someone on the phone, I could genuinely talk to them for like 15 minutes about why we should or shouldn't trade one of our goalies because we're losing a lot of games or something like that. And it's like, if I can talk about that aside from real estate, build a genuine relationship that isn't me just trying to mind their business and get their business and be fake in that way and put on the sales face and get you to like me so that you go with me. If it's genuine, it just is so much better and better over the long term too. And so I really like that it was Avs tickets instead of something else. Like, we could have done other sports teams tickets, but personally I just don't follow the Nuggets a ton. He does. Maybe we'll do that, but it's like the fact that we gave away something I was super interested in myself helped a lot.
Yeah.
So
well, then when you convert them as a client, you know, like you become homies. You know, right?
Yeah.
Like knowing down who your ideal client is and work with people that you have common interests with, that you enjoy working. It changes the game. You know, right? When you get to feel like you're just helping your friends go out there, find homes and sell homes and get paid a lot of money for it, you know, definitely raises the enjoyment factor. That's brilliant. I love it. Anything else outside of like sports tickets or concert tickets that like you guys have had success with a prize that, like, maybe one other thing? I'm just trying to, because sometimes people are like, well, what would I do in my area if I'm not into sports? Like, if you don't like, I don't know, TVs or a trip or anything.
I wonder.
I mean, I've been more focused on the, I guess, if you will, like, agent acquisition.
Yeah, to be honest with you, where our focus has been this year is more working with our agents to help them be productive. So I mean, I know what I did last year and the year before, and that worked pretty well. But right now, it's like my head's not even in that space. It's more in like hey, what can we do to attract agents to want to work with us? How can we add more value to our agents? It's all that kind of stuff. Honestly, it's like
do the same shit.
You need an all realtor group somewhere to do that. That would be cool. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is I don't care really where you're at, but I think we stand on this, and this is just like the pillar of like our success in sales. Just offer value, like offer so much value up front, or a perceived value maybe to that person or whatever, and that's in conversation or just in general. Like, the Avs tickets are value. When I go and talk to an agent, I offer them, I calibrate based on the person I think they are going to be, and then what I do is I adjust and I find out what's important to them, and so I highlight key terms that I feel would offer value to them before I'm even talking about any, and those will be at the forefront, even though those may not be the most important things that I feel they're important, or like he would, but they feel it's important and they feel it's valuable, so therefore I key on that. And I think if you do that, whether it's tickets, giveaways, or I don't know, what have you, your tabling events at, you know, some taco festival in, you know, downtown.
that could work too, honestly.
From that standpoint, I think always, if you're always coming from a place of like groundedness and like truly offering value, you're never going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and then for recruiting agents, you know, right, for those that are broker owners or team leaders, man, it's like I'm sitting there thinking, like, how many tools agents need? Yeah, right, like, it's like the you know, I just got the Smooth Mobile. Like, that thing's badass, right? Creating your own video content, or iPad for listing presentations, or there's so many things out there that can expand their business, and that's what I love about it. Like, you're always recruiting, right? You're either recruiting a buyer or seller, or recruiting an agent, or a combination of both. You know, at a transition point. But it's really the same process, right? Like, what works in one works in the other one. So, love it, dude. That's awesome, man. You're the first people that I've met that have crushed it and killed it with that. At least I'm aware of. So that's dope, dude. So,
thank you.
Let's jump into, because we got about 30 minutes before we got to get jamming here. But I want to spend some time going into, you know, the self-development. And like you talked about with shifting the paradigm and you know, like I call it, like the analogy I always use is the lens that you look at it. Like life can be shitty in this moment, or it can be epic and amazing. It's just the lens that you look at it. Like maybe my wife and I just sort of button heads, and if I want to focus on maybe the 10 or 15% that's bad, but not shift my focus to the 85% that's epic and amazing, yeah, right? Like we're probably gonna have a bad marriage. Or like for real estate agents, right? When it's like, hey man, you got these 2 clients that are clients from hell, right? But your focus is on them and how you know, just nasty they are, how nasty that situation is. But you might have these 8 other clients that are just such a blessing, that are so epic, that are so amazing, that appreciate you. But if we're not careful, right, and we focus on those 2 and not give those blessings and gratitude to those 8, right, then we can be like, oh, this industry sucks. And I think we've all been there where we've allowed ourselves to do that. We want to drop out but we're not focused on the 80% of all the amazing out there. So, because I truly believe that, dude, 90% of this game of all success is up here. Like you control your mind, you control the world, right? So at least your world, right? So, kind of walk us, because you've got Awakening, right? That you guys are working on.
Funny enough, it's launching in the next 3 days.
Okay, cool. So it'll be available.
Yeah, by the time this is posted, it'll be live. So
a few weeks out. So okay, so we'll have links below to it. So yeah, I mean, let's just go there then, dude. Like, what is Awakening, and then what was your guys' journeys that led you to there? Because obviously, like, this is. Like when we start talking, we'll talk a little bit about real estate, but this is where you go. This is where your true heart is and passion. Not that it's not in real estate.
Absolutely.
This is what allows you to do real estate well, right?
Sure. I think I was someone who studied under a lot of people, yourself included, and there's just a lot of frameworks that I was studying under, and thinking that whoever I was under and learning from was like some kind of God or like separate from me in the way that they built their methodologies, whether it was an actual program, whether it was reading a book. I mean, when you read a book, you think that author is so knowledgeable. And then what I kind of realized along the way was that these are all just human beings creating meaning, and the meaning they create or the model they build is their book or their program or anything that they put out. And they create that meaning from within their frame of reference, which is their entire scope of awareness of reality. And from within that, they build a model of understanding. And that model is usually their book or program. So the methodology I take here, because you brought up the example of lenses or paradigms, or how you could see the 8 good clients versus the 2 shitty clients. When I would compare a paradigm to a frame of reference, I'd say maybe imagine a house. A house has a lot of windows in the front and the back and the sides, upstairs, downstairs, there's a lot of windows. Now, if you were looking out one window and you saw a certain thing, and you were looking out another window and saw a different thing, ultimately, both of those things exist, but let's say you're operating within one paradigm. You're looking out of one lens, and you see the 2 shitty clients in the backyard, right? If all you knew or all you were aware of were those 2 shitty clients, you'd be like, well, this sucks. I hate this. But if you looked outside the front window and you saw the 8 good clients, you'd be like, well, that's awesome. I love this. But ultimately, there's more than just 1 or 2 windows. There's all of these windows. And I think what most people do is they say, hey, stop looking out this bad window, look out this good window. But what I say is, if you choose to look out of one instead of the other, you're just deluding yourself or brainwashing yourself or hypnotizing yourself to one or the other, whether it's for good or bad. And now what a lot of people do is they say, well, let's do it for good, and then that's all we have to do. But what I say is, why not expand your frame of reference? Why not break from the paradigms? See them for what they are. See the meaning you create as a construct. See the identities and the things we identify with as a construct for what it is, and realize that you're separate from it. And then ultimately you can expand your frame of reference. And since we create meaning from within our frame of reference, you can create more accurate meaning throughout life. One easy example I'd say of an identity is, I identified so hard with, say, the Colorado Avalanche as I was growing up. And like when they'd lose, I'd get pissed off, because an attack on your identity, and neurophysiologically, I'm sure you know this, but you can have these survivalistic fight or flight emotions and chemicals going through your body when something is a perceived threat to your identity or your ego, just the same as if there was like a lion in your environment. You can get all worked up and there's really just no threat outside of you. And so when we identify with things and someone attacks that identity, we get worked up in the same way. And so what I'm saying here is, if we just realize that that's a construct, I mean, that's not real. It's made up. And you can detach from that. You have so much more power. And just like when you identify with a certain paradigm, and this is where we kind of start to cross lines, so I won't talk about it too much, but if you talk about a methodology of thinking, whether it's a religion or whether it's a political ideology, it is by definition a paradigm that you're choosing to operate within. But if you were able to remove yourself from it by disidentifying with it, you'd be able to have a larger frame of reference. And so it's like you see all the left and the right in terms of politics, for example. People are butting heads. It's because they're operating within certain paradigms. And instead of getting out of your paradigm and having an expanded frame of reference that you could then go and see both sides, they'd rather just still operate within that one and then backwards rationalize from there why they're right or wrong. And then they look for everything. It's like the reticular activation system. You'll look for everything that could support your side just because you feel a certain way, instead of just disidentifying from it and not feeling a type of way.
Yeah, man. It's like I had a mentor at one point that, well, at least he was the first person I heard the saying from, but there's nothing original that exists out there, right? At this point, it's like every book I read, it's just like regurgitated, like Napoleon Hill or Jim, you know, right? But he's like, hey man, you got to learn to be an open-minded skeptic. Like, be open-minded about everything, but question everything. So then, you know, like, you can be open-minded enough where it's like, okay, you got this religion. Like, I'm going to study both. Yeah, right. See both from the points of views, but be skeptical enough where you don't. I accept that as a truth, and you can ask the right questions. And you know, being a hardcore skeptic is a bad thing, right? But then you can also be maybe overly open-minded, where there's that little bit of a balance there. And I can't remember who it was. I know it was a Debbie Ford. I think it was like a Debbie Ford and Deepak Chopra book that they co-wrote together. But it was talked a lot about what you were just talking about, of like learning to remove yourself from yourself in any situation, like, and just visualize like yourself like leaving your body and coming up here, and you're like watching yourself act in that moment and observing yourself in that moment, right? So you just detach from those emotions and you just become an observer, you know, with that. And it's do you ever study Robert Cialdini?
Yeah, I read Influence.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know if it's Influence or Pre-Persuasion, his newest book.
Oh, I haven't read that.
Read that book. That'll blow your fucking mind, dude. You know, because what he realized with Influence is he's like, I messed up. He's like, you know, like Influence, like all those things, you know, or what he has found to be true. But he's like, what I didn't take into reference was the thing that happened right before. So, like, Pre-Persuasion, it was all like they would test, like, walking in a mall, and they'd have like a good-looking guy walk up and ask out like a good-looking girls, and like the percentage of that would say yes versus no compared to if they were in front of like a Starbucks inside the mall or Victoria's Secret, right? Like, just the things around you, right? Like that environment, how that's what's Pre-Persuasion, like what happens before the sell, you know, right? The environment,
that's awesome.
The setup before. You know, but he talks about in there with police interrogations, right? And he talks about, and they've his science team, they went out there and vetted this hard and spent years with this, and they have all the data to back it up. But he's like, you know, like police officers can't go in there and interrogate. There's like specialized rules, right? What they found though, if the camera is, and I can't remember who it was focused on more, but if the camera is focused in a certain angle on that person versus another angle, right? And they test this in front of juries, like had mock juries, right? At this angle, the jury voted that person to be guilty, like exponentially a higher percentage compared to this angle. So he's like, look, he goes, if the camera's on your face and not on the cop when they're interrogating you, it increases your chance of being guilty. So he's like, if you ever get charged for a crime you didn't commit, and they went in the interrogating room and it's being filmed, he's like, move your chair over to where the cop or whatever is blocking the camera, or it can't be on your face. Like, so that same interrogation, same questioning, same everything, nothing changed other than the camera angle, right? And our eyeballs are just cameras, right? So it's like there's not one world, there's 7.4 billion worlds, right? Like, but with that being said, at some point, you have to make up your own truth, right? Like you're gonna detach yourself. You're gonna listen to all these different opinions and whatever. But at some point, like, do you get to a point where, I mean, because we all at some point have the truths that we choose to operate by. Like you're gonna make up your own mind and decision of what you feel is right. To be open-minded and understand it's not right for others.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, right. Like, kind of walk us through that. Like, at what point? Because you could probably take it too far otherwise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is, and relating it maybe back to a paradigm, let's say someone was raised within a certain religion and that's their truth. I'm not necessarily saying anyone's truth is wrong. More so, I think your truth might be better understood for your own benefit. Like, let's say someone's raised within a certain religion. Do you take what you were conditioned to on blind faith, or do you go and explore reality outside of your paradigm? And if you explore reality and you expand your frame of reference and you still come to that same meaning, then you're better off for it. You understand it to a greater degree. You're more grounded in it. You're more empowered to even express your own truth because you understand outside of your truth. And I think when people are raised within certain conditioning or certain paradigms, or they identify with certain things, they're unwilling to go beyond them because they identify with them. And if they identify with them, then going beyond them is almost like killing their identity. And if an attack on your identity feels the same as an attack in your physical environment, then killing an identity is like, it feels like death. So if you attack someone's identity, I mean, look at all the racial stuff and the sexist stuff and this, like anything that's going on in today's political climate or anything that's going on in the world. I mean, people are killing each other or flambasting each other based on attacks on identity alone. And this identity is, I think, a huge issue because a lot of the times when you identify with something, you don't realize that that's what happened. You think it's more real than it is. And so I think when people can get beyond their identity, they're able to move beyond these things. And then ultimately, yeah, I mean, if you come to the same conclusions after doing so, you're more empowered by your truth.
Yeah. So is it almost like be open-minded enough to go out there and come up with your own truth, as you just said, but then also have the awareness to just not attach to give up judgment, right? Essentially, yeah. So for me, Taco Bell is my jam, right? Best food that exists on this planet. So, in my opinion, right, like if I was on death row, my last meal would be fucking Taco Bell. Like there's nothing that compares even close, right, to me with that.
Yep.
That's my truth, right? My taste buds. Obviously, like if Bobby's like, no, dude, Jimmy John's fucking crushes Taco Bell. Like I'm not gonna get an argument with him because I understand that works for him. So it's almost like that being open-minded enough where you can remove from a judgment, right?
I think that's a very good comparison, but I think where that gets lost is, let's say someone takes like a religion. Now, where this gets into the weeds is like, you might like Taco Bell, he might like Burger King or whatever the example is, but the second that you say Taco Bell is the right way is the second where we might have a conflict, because then he says, no, Burger King is the right way and the only truth, the only way. Now you have a problem. And then you have to go figure out, well, let's look at this objectively. Can we disidentify from certain things? So it's like at some point that could be okay, but then people don't just leave it at that. You know what I mean? So it's not like you guys just let each other live in peace with your different taste buds. It's one of you end up saying, this is the only way. And then you have a problem.
Like I get somebody if they like it's a somebody, like there's, let's just say it's a specific country, and they indoctrinate, from the youth to it. Like they just don't have the exposure, right? Like there's certain places where there is no internet. You can't have any outside exposure. Like the government picks the cartoons, like, right? So they don't know anything other than that, right? But like for us, they're like where we are at. It blows my mind that 2019 with the technology and the exposure we have, that people would get that hardcore onto a judgment, right? Or hold to their own truth and not have that understanding or just awareness of.
Well, it's a lot of herd mentality with that too, because I think most people are so unaware of their conditioning to the point where they don't think they're conditioned a certain way. And that's a huge problem in and of itself, because if you don't think that there is a reality outside of what you perceive? Are you ever going to let go of these identifications? And it goes a lot deeper because we just quickly, I mean, we have so much information blasted at us at once that it's like, how do we evaluate it all? I mean, especially on social media, you have so much information. And again, like, how do you evaluate it? There's just these filters that we use. And if everyone is saying this thing and someone's really sure in what they're saying and everyone agrees with it, then it's like, oh, that must be true. But then it's like we grow up, I mean, especially people in countries like this where there's information is easily accessible. Not everyone goes and looks at information. That's why, most people who are raised within a certain paradigm, whether it's like a political party or a religion, I mean, you're raised within that and you end up being that when you're 20, 30, 40 years old. You don't break from your identifications usually.
Yeah.
People just, and it's a little bit deeper than that. Those are just the easiest examples for me, I think, to just communicate what I mean by that. But I think it goes beyond the obvious. I think it goes, like, you could be identified with almost anything. It's kind of scary.
Now, other than if somebody has an extremely low IQ and is just an idiot, so let's just pretend that they have a decent level of intelligence and they'd be able to grasp, the fact that, hey, like, people have different belief systems, right? Outside of that, man, which, I mean, that's probably most people. Most people, are smart enough to understand that. Do you think then, because then they're smart enough to understand it, but they still don't understand it, right? For a lot of people, unfortunately, right? Like, people, just like you mentioned with, somebody's sexual orientation, or, right? Like if somebody gets a sex change or what, like, you just get people that just, have some pretty hardcore judgments to it. Do you think that it really comes down to ego? Yeah, right? Like pride. Like, pride just seems to stifle every element of success out there. Like, you guys talked about it in your partnership of, hey, like, we had to give up ego to create a successful partnership, right? Like, in any type of relationship, like spouse, whatever, it's like, you can either be right or you can have a great relationship. But you got to, like, give up being right. If being right is what is most important to you, you're never going to have a great relationship, right? And then if you look at, I read a study one time, I can't remember where, but it was about prisons. And it was like 90% of the people that are in prisons, dude, it was a pride and ego. Like, somebody bumped into them at a bar and spilt their drink. And then, said something to them. Like, what the fuck, you idiot, you just spilt my drink. Right? Well, now I feel, because my homies are with me, my buddies are with me, and I gotta act macho and stick up for myself. Instead of be like, dude, I'm so sorry, man. I wasn't paying attention until I missed you. Let's come up to the bar with me, man. I'll buy you a beer right now. I'm so sorry. But instead, my pride kicks in, and they're like, well, what the fuck, dude? And I'm like, oh, fuck you, man. He just gets back forward. The next thing we get in a fight and manslaughter, whatever.
I do think it relates to it, because let's look at that guy. He's probably identified, or he considers himself someone who isn't pushed around. And if you see yourself as someone who goes, I'm not letting anyone walk on me, and then someone says that to you, that directly attacks that part of his identity. You know what I mean? But it's like, when you realize that that's a construct, you can't beyond it. Because I used to identify like that. If someone did that to me, I'd probably instigate. I had a chip on my shoulder. But when I realized it's just all a freaking facade, like, I don't have to act like that. I don't have to identify with that. That's not real. Then it's like, you have the ability to step beyond that and be like, oh yeah, let me buy you a drink. I'm sorry. So it's like, but it's like I said, it's like, you don't realize sometimes. It's just something as subtle as that. Yeah,
because it's like, okay, we for most have the intelligence to be able to do this kind of work, right? But their pride to that identity that
I'd agree with that.
To be right or whatever is so deep that it just blocks the way they don't have that awareness.
I agree with that.
So then, how does this apply to real estate? Yeah, right? Yep. Like, you've heard me in the boot camp say,
absolutely,
alumni 1,000 times of, look, there's no best lead generation source, right? And there's 1,000 ways to create success, right? It's whatever that you align with your strengths, your energy, like whatever you want to consistently do each and every day that you're going to be committed to is going to be the best, right? So, but so many people are like, oh no, this is the best source, or this is the, like, they like, oh, I'm just going to do cold calls, I'm going to become a cold call coach, versus like, hey man, like, there's 1,000 ways to go out there and create success. Like how well does this kind of stuff benefit us as we're going to real estate business?
I'd say this is the reason I'm still in real estate, because a lot of people don't just drop out of real estate because they're unsuccessful. A lot of people drop out because they just hate it. It's stressful. It's hard. The interpersonal stuff for a lot of people is hard too. And I'd say as far as interpersonal stuff goes, you can tear your hair out with a lot of frustrating people because the average person might frustrate you a lot. But if you like went really deep into this content and you just had to your core the understanding that someone that would have previously frustrated you is simply a human being who has a frame of reference, who creates meaning and evaluates everything around them from within that frame of reference, it would be like, well, why would I ever get frustrated with that person? They're just a human. They have a frame of reference. They create meaning from within that frame. Why am I going to let that upset me? And instead, you can understand the situation a lot better instead of identifying with your part of the situation and being like, oh, screw that guy. It's like, okay, well, this guy clearly just has a limited frame of reference here, doesn't understand this. And then you can evaluate it as, okay, well, I can either do this to help them see, or I can just move on and not waste any of my time or energy worrying about that person. And this goes for clients, this goes for everyone, other agents, it goes for just everyone you ever come in contact with. And real estate's such a stressful industry that it's like people age quickly, they drop out, they hate it, it sucks. But it's like if you just had that knowledge throughout your day, it's like, what's going to throw you off? And people can feel that off of you too, just by state transference. I mean, if you feel grounded and happy and confident, they'll feel it from you. And if you don't and you're getting agitated, they'll feel it from you too. And it just helps you more than I think you could know in anything interpersonal, I would say.
I think this, I guess the framework that he was just talking about and understanding like how it, like, I guess more applicable situations would be, like in our negotiation class, we talk heavily about like calling the other agent and like assuming familiarity, making sure like you're understanding where they're coming from, calibrating and understanding like where they operate. Also to, I guess a big thing that we talk about is like competition versus cooperation, and like how a lot of the time in the industry, it's like you get in, it's like me versus you, like who's going to negotiate the better deal? And it's like, no, we're actually cooperating and we're actually coming to something that's, I guess fair and on either side, or from that standpoint, that would be more applicable like a day-to-day. Like when I came into the industry, I was like, oh, it's so competitive, I'm gonna like beat this guy, I'm better than this person. And like, no, things actually started flowing a lot better and things were less stressful. I understood more people when I implemented this framework and was like, hey, like it really is a cooperation. We're both trying to just get to where the closing table. That's it. Making our clients do what's right for each of them. And if you view it from that perspective, it profoundly makes the entire process like that much easier. And then also too, just for us, just being, I guess like being young and in the real estate game and trying to innovate and trying to find all these new solutions, there's a lot of pushback, and it's easy to get frustrated and understand like, hey, like the whole industry is like this way, and get frustrated and be like, oh, throw my hands up, I can't do anything about it, instead of just understanding that is the way it is, and that's because of people operate in these paradigms and they move this way. But that doesn't mean I have to, because I can essentially get outside of that and I can see and understand everything in their awareness, the way they're moving into real estate and the traditional solutions that we now then can innovate and start adding value in a different way, and start for our agents, start adding value to them beyond just the traditional.
Yeah. No, I love that, dude. And so much, again, seems like it just circles back to that whole pride thing, right? So I can't tell you how many deals that I put together over the years when I jump on the phone with another agent and I'm trying to, be in cooperation versus competition, but they're just being a total jerk, right? But allowing that, like, hey, like I don't need to be the one controlling the like allow them to be them, right? And even if I gotta come in there and like people are like, oh dude, you're soft, like you don't, like, oh, you just apologize, you caved in, you apologize. I'm not saying cave in like with my clients on a dollar amount, yeah, right? But if what's in my client's best interest is to let them feel like they won an argument,
exactly.
Let them win an argument. Like I'm going to win by getting my client the home and going out there and creating success.
Just Euro step, right?
Yeah, like we have a very strict kill them with kindness policy in our real estate team with our support staff, because as a support staff, dude, like you kind of become a human punching bag for a lot of agents.
Oh
and,
my god!
Like we do a lot of training and mindset training with our staff, and I'm like, look, guys, like you can't take anything personal, man. Like this agent, like you don't know what's happening behind the scenes with the average agent. So according to NAR, the average agent that's in the business for 6 years, gross is like $34,000 a year. That's not even net, right? That's before broker splits, whatever. So I'm like, dude, like this deal, if it's delayed 3 days, that means that they may not be able to make the mortgage payment. Like there's all these other stresses. Or maybe they just got a phone call that their kid's sick. Like you don't know what's happening in there. So we're just gonna have a hardcore kill them with kindness. Like there's no reason to ever get upset, ever to get angry. And I'm like, and it didn't do something like a means like fuck you, like a code word, so you guys can all giggle, with it or whatever. But like just kill them with kindness, no matter what. Like just always be kind, right? And it goes a long way, dude.
Really does.
So then, because we got to wrap this up, unfortunately, because I could jam with you guys all day long, but I got a meeting I got to jump into here in a minute. All right, so you got Awakening by the time that this podcast has been released.
Yep,
so
we'll have Awakening out. So
if you could give like the 60-second elevator pitch on like what is involved there, what's included.
Sure.
And we'll have the link below with that.
Well, the way we kind of presented it was everyone is conditioned beyond the point that they understand their conditions, to the point where they don't think there's a problem. Because you're right, it's like if everyone's so intelligent that this is obvious, then why is it so hard for everyone? And so the goal with the program is to help people be more aware of this in their lives, because the second you're aware of it, you're right, people are smart. I mean, the second you're aware of how it works, you can kind of adapt. You can move forward. You can unplug from it. But it's just people just don't understand how bad it is in their lives sometimes, and just how it all works. And so Awakening, the goal of that is to literally wake people up to that, pull them from the system, and then they're able to operate independent of their all this BS around them. They can unplug from that. So.
Yeah, love it. All right, so Awakening, we're going to have a link right below for everybody to click on, and I don't know if you have, is it something you're selling?
Yep, and actually we're about to charge a lot of money for it, but the thing is we want people to, I'd rather have a lot of people do this, and I'd rather the more people go through it, and we're going to charge $300 for it, but we're only going to charge $97. So it's, to be honest, we're charging $97 because I want people to have skin in the game. I don't think if people don't pay for a product, they're not going to care. They're not going to do anything. But if they put some skin in the game, they will. But I wanted to charge enough for skin in the game, and then other than that, I want people to learn. I want this to help people. I want this to actually be adopted by people so that they can take value from it, as many people as possible. So that's the goal.
Yep. All right. So then, so you guys are in Denver, Colorado.
Yep.
We had a shit ton of real estate agents that watch this podcast. So maybe they have a referral they want to send you guys, clients moving there, or maybe it's somebody that's in Denver that wants to talk to you guys about joining your team. Like, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys for your real estate team?
We can drop a couple emails in the description. Probably be Andrew at thecocagroup.com or Jonathan at thecocagroup.com.
Cool. And then you guys have a recruit, I don't want to say a recruiting site, but a website about your team too, right? What's
you can go to cocauniversity.com.
Coca University.
Coca University. Like
Coca-Cola. Coca University. All right, awesome. Those watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation truly is the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information, taking action on it, that creates the power in your life for you to go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Andrew and Jonathan shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you. We got pretty deep on this one today, man. Damn. That's the shit I love, though, man. Well, here's the thing. Everyone wants to talk about, like, oh, man, what's the best expired script? And I'm not saying that some of that stuff doesn't matter, but this is the shit that truly matters. Like when you start expanding into this, so when I go hang out with, a lot of my top producer, mega agent friends, when we get together mastermind, dude, 99% of our conversations is this right here. It's not, all the other shit is just, it's not that it's not important, but it's so insignificantly less like important or whatever than this stuff. This stuff's so important. So, but yeah, make sure you guys take action on what you learned today, so you can go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Andrew, Jonathan, man, this has been awesome. Truly appreciate you guys flying out and being here. This has been dope.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. All right, you guys, thanks for watching, listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.